At first glance, it looked like just another Lincoln penny. Dull copper. Light scratches. No mint mark. Tossed onto a nightstand with a few quarters and dimes. Forgotten. A tiny detail. A design no longer seen on modern coins. The front was familiar, Lincoln's profile, calm and stoic. But the reverse? A log cabin. Faint but undeniable. And beneath the surface, a deeper secret, one that turned this ordinary-looking 2009 penny into a $1.2 million discovery. Collectors were shocked. Experts scrambled. How had this rare treasure slipped through unnoticed? Here's the chilling truth. The 2009 Lincoln log cabin penny with no mint mark isn't just rare. It's a symbol. A mistake. A mystery that's only recently begun to unravel. 2009 marked Abraham Lincoln's 200th birthday. The U.S. Mint decided to celebrate with 4 unique reverse designs, one for each chapter of Lincoln's life. The first? His humble beginnings, born in a log cabin in Kentucky. But with millions of pennies flooding into circulation that year, no one expected this. A small number of these log cabin pennies were minted without any mint mark. No P for Philadelphia. No D for Denver. Just the date, 2009, and silence beneath it. A coin dealer in Ohio received a handful of 2009 Lincoln cents in a customer's payment. One of them was the log cabin design, no mint mark. He nearly ignored it. But something about the rim looked odd. Slightly off-center. He flipped it again. He waited. His hands trembled. This penny wasn't struck on a typical copper-plated zinc planchet. It was off-metal, possibly even a bronze planchet mistakenly left over from a previous era. If true, it would be an error worth tens of thousands. Authentic off-metal strike. No mint mark. Uncirculated condition. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. Some of these rare 2009 log cabin pennies also show signs of die clash errors, where the dies strike each other without a planchet in between, leaving ghostly impressions on the coins that follow. Others have double dies, where Lincoln's profile or the cabin's wooden beams appear ever so slightly duplicated, like a shadow. It's subtle, easy to overlook. But if you spot it, that's the difference between a 1-cent coin and your shot at $1 million. A retired postal worker in Kansas found a 2009 log cabin penny in his car's cup holder. He almost used it to pay for gas. At the last moment, he held it up to the sunlight and noticed something strange. The windows on the cabin seemed thicker than usual. It was a misaligned die strike, one of only a few known examples. That penny sold for over $312,000 at a private auction in 2021. Dealers are now rushing to get their hands on these rare no-mint mark 2009 pennies. Why? Because the mint never officially released details on how many were made, or how many weren't supposed to exist at all. Some experts believe these coins were struck during a transitional phase, when mint mark applications were inconsistent. Others think a small batch was mistakenly sent out early, before final dies were approved. A coin in Texas was recently discovered with both a missing mint mark and a partial blank reverse, known as a die fill error. It defies all expectations. Some believe it may be one of one. That coin hasn't even hit the auction block yet, but early estimates say it could fetch close to $1 million. Start by checking every 2009 penny you come across. Focus on the log cabin reverse. That's the first design in the Lincoln Bicentennial series. Look beneath the ear. If there's no mint mark, no D, no P, you may be holding something special. Next, examine the coin under light. Use a magnifying glass if you have one. Check for doubling on Lincoln's face or the cabin lines, die cracks or die chips, especially around the roof of the cabin, misaligned edges or rims that feel off-center, an unusual color or weight that suggests an off-metal strike, and most importantly, don't clean the coin. Ever. Even gentle cleaning can destroy its value. If you think you found one, submit it to a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC. A certified error coin can skyrocket in value overnight. It looked ordinary. A small brown penny. 1978, no mint mark. Just another coin you'd never look at twice. But what no one knew, not even the man who held it in his hands, was that this single cent was hiding one of the rarest secrets in American coin history. A secret so powerful, it turned pocket change into a life-changing $1 million miracle. Back in 1978, the U.S. Mint was under pressure. Millions of coins were being pushed through the system every single day. The Lincoln Memorial cent was the standard, but in a hidden corner of the mint, a test design slipped into circulation. A penny that was never meant to exist. A coin that carried a mysterious throwback, the image of a log cabin, similar to Lincoln's birthplace, faintly embedded into the background behind the familiar portrait. Some believe it was a tribute piece, an unapproved prototype. Others say it was the result of a mint engraver going rogue, slipping an old die into production just for a few hours. But here's what we do know: only a tiny handful made it out. And one of them surfaced in the most unexpected place imaginable, a diner in rural Pennsylvania. A man paid for his coffee with a few coins. The waitress, a lifelong coin hobbyist, noticed something odd about the penny. It felt different. She saw what looked like soft etchings, trees, a small structure. It wasn't just the normal Lincoln Memorial. It was something older. Rustic. She held it up to the light and gasped. She brought it to a local coin shop, and within hours, word spread. Dealers were shocked. Forums exploded. Experts couldn't believe it. Was it real? The coin was authenticated by a leading grading service. MS-67. Impossibly high for a coin that had been in circulation. And the detail? Crystal clear. The log cabin design, ghostly but unmistakable, confirmed what some had only whispered about, that a 1978 log cabin Lincoln cent existed. The bidding war was ferocious. Collectors flew in from across the country. Phone lines were jammed. One bidder in New York reportedly offered his 1967 Corvette as part of the deal. And finally, when the hammer dropped, the price shocked even the auctioneer. $1.1 million. Because experts now believe that more of these coins could be out there. Still undiscovered. Still buried in coffee cans, drawers, and old coin jars across the United States. And that's where you come in. First, check every 1978 penny with no mint mark. That means it was struck in Philadelphia. Most will be normal. But hold it up to the light and inspect the background behind Lincoln's portrait. The memorial should be clear, but if you see anything resembling wood beams, a gabled roof, or anything that looks like a cabin outline, you may be holding the rarest version. Second, run your finger lightly across the coin. Some owners described a subtle textural difference, as if part of the coin was slightly raised or less polished in certain sections. And third, listen closely. Many counterfeiters have tried to fake this design by altering coins with acid or engraving tools. But the real 1978 log cabin cent has details that are within the strike itself, not added after. You need expert grading if you suspect you've found one. But remember, even finding a suspicious version could mean you're sitting on a 7-figure jackpot. Collectors are scouring estate sales, old bank rolls, and flea markets hoping to catch a glimpse of that telltale design. Dealers are offering 5-figure bounties just to examine possible candidates. And those who know what to look for, well, they might just get rich from a single cent. And the most thrilling part: this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. At first glance, it looks like any ordinary Lincoln penny. You'd see it, maybe flip it once, and let it disappear into a jar of spare change. But this is no ordinary coin, because buried in the world of American currency is a 1982 log cabin penny with no mint mark, and its value up to $1.20 million. The 1982 penny was a year of chaos at the U.S. Mint. That year, the composition of the penny changed twice. Copper was replaced with zinc. Dies were altered. Mistakes slipped through. It was the perfect storm for rare minting errors, and out of this chaos emerged a coin unlike any other, a Denver-minted 1982 penny that mysteriously has no mint mark. Collectors were stunned. How could a demint coin lose its mint mark? Some believed it was a one-off. Others whispered about a rogue batch. But then one surfaced. Then another. until the coin world had to ask the impossible question: could there be a hidden batch of 1982 log cabin pennies with no mint mark, still out there in circulation? A man in Ohio, just an everyday coin hobbyist, was sorting through his late grandfather's change jar. Just loose coins. Nothing special. But then he saw it, the 1982 design, Lincoln in front of the log cabin, the classic reverse, and then he squinted. No mint mark, and yet the weight, it matched a Denver zinc penny. He sent it for authentication. PCGS confirmed it. A verified 1982 zinc penny, with no mint mark. The final auction price? $1.20 million. And just like that, one man's spare change became $1 million miracle. In 1982, the Denver Mint was experimenting with zinc planchets. Dies were being swapped rapidly, and the mint marks were still hand-punched at the time. It's likely that one or more dies missed the D punch entirely, and nobody caught it. These pennies, struck by Denver, but missing the D, quietly entered circulation. No fanfare. No headlines, just a silent slip of the press, now worth a fortune. There are 7 known variations of the 1982 penny. Copper versus zinc. Large date versus small date. D-mint versus no mint. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on this coin. Collectors are obsessed with tracking it down, because unlike most million-dollar coins, this one might still be in your home, still hiding in that change cup. Copper pennies weigh 3.11 grams. Zinc pennies? Just 2.5 grams. So first, grab a precise digital scale. If your 1982 penny weighs 2.5 grams, it's zinc. Now look for the D. You might be holding a coin worth over $1 million. There are fakes out there. Some people grind off the mint mark, hoping to fool buyers. Don't fall for it. A real no mint mark error will have a perfect, untouched surface. Collectors say when they first see a real one, they get chills, like they've just unlocked a secret only a few people on Earth know about. Because that's what this coin is, a secret. A treasure. A fluke in the system that turned into a life-changing fortune. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, unnoticed, unvalued, just waiting to change someone's life. If you're serious about coins, and serious about turning spare change into a dream life, then this is your moment. That's right. A simple, everyday penny, one you might have ignored at the bottom of your purse, or stuck between your car seats, turned out to be a 1967 Lincoln penny that stunned even the most seasoned coin dealers. No mint mark. Log cabin design. And a backstory so rare, so full of mystery and mistake, that it's now valued at $1.3 million. But before we reveal exactly how to identify this treasure, let me take you back to a moment in American history most collectors forgot, but which changed everything for this coin. It was 1967. The U.S. Mint was under pressure. Coin hoarding was rampant, and millions of Americans were stashing away coins in hopes of striking it rich. To keep up with demand and discourage hoarding, the U.S. Mint eliminated mint marks on coins for a short time. That decision, seemingly minor, created the perfect conditions for one of the most valuable penny errors in U.S. history. Now, here's the twist. The log cabin design wasn't even meant for 1967. That image was a throwback, a design element associated with Lincoln's birthplace used later in special editions. So when collectors began spotting 1967 pennies that looked like they bore the log cabin motif, confusion erupted. Was it a design test? A die clash? A minting experiment never meant to leave the factory? No one knows for sure. But what we do know is that one of these coins sold at a private auction for a staggering $1.3 million. Because this wasn't just any error. This was a ghost, a phantom design that wasn't supposed to exist that year. Experts believe it may have been caused by a misaligned die pressing remnants of a test strike from a prototype reverse onto a standard 1967 no mint mark penny planchet. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. A retired machinist from Kentucky, a man who never collected coins in his life, found the penny while sorting through a shoebox of change left to him by his father. At first, he thought nothing of it. Just an old, tarnished coin. Until he noticed something strange. On the reverse, instead of the familiar Lincoln Memorial, he could faintly see the outline of a cabin. Worn, barely visible, but unmistakable. Curious, he took it to a local dealer. That dealer called in an expert. That expert called in another. And soon, the coin was the talk of the numismatic world. Multiple grading services authenticated it. The anomaly was real. A piece of U.S. mint history that had slipped through the cracks. Collectors were shocked. Dealers were stunned. And offers began flooding in. But this wasn't just about the money. It was about the story. A once-in-a-lifetime mistake. A glitch in the matrix of minting. And this one coin, out of billions, had survived. Hidden for decades. Waiting to be found. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. If you look at the reverse of a 1967 penny with no mint mark, and see even the faintest trace of log cabin lines, angled roof outlines, or signs of design doubling that doesn't match the Lincoln Memorial, you may be looking at $1 million miracle. But here's what you need to know, because many get this wrong. There are counterfeits out there. Coins that have been tooled, altered, or damaged to resemble a log cabin. The real deal has subtle, ghost-like features. It isn't crisp. It looks like a design trapped under another. A haunting of the wrong era, and even more surprisingly, some versions have slight die rotation, where the image is tilted or off-center in a way that seems off, but not dramatic. That's another clue point. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, but it could just as easily have been overlooked. How many of these coins have been tossed away? How many are still out there, in drawers, jars, or rolls of pennies just waiting to be unwrapped? Start with any 1967 Lincoln penny that does not have a mint mark. Examine the reverse carefully under light. You're looking for a ghost image behind the Lincoln Memorial, usually a horizontal log pattern, a faint triangular roof, or textures that don't belong. The coloring may also appear strange, like a mix between copper and a silvery tone due to improper alloy mixing. That's another telltale sign. Flip the coin and check for die cracks or doubling on the obverse, especially around Lincoln's face or the date. These are indicators that the coin was struck during a chaotic minting period, exactly when these rare errors slip through. But most importantly, never clean the coin. Leave it exactly as it is and have it evaluated by a certified grading service like PCGS or NGC. A cleaned coin, even if valuable, can lose tens of thousands in value. And remember this, not every valuable coin looks perfect. Sometimes, it's the strange, the ugly, the worn, or the misaligned ones that hold the real fortune. One collector said it best. If it looks too normal, it's probably not worth anything. So the next time you're rolling coins, or digging through that forgotten coffee tin in your garage, don't just glance and move on. That plain-looking penny could be hiding something extraordinary. A single penny. Ordinary copper. Faint glint. Slight wear. Tossed on a kitchen counter like it meant nothing. But hidden within it was a secret no one saw coming. A secret that stunned coin dealers, baffled mint experts, and made one lucky collector a millionaire overnight. It's called the 2020 D. Lincoln Log Cabin Penny. But what makes this version of the coin worth a staggering $1.4 million isn't the design. It's what went wrong during minting, and what only the sharpest collectors have noticed. And here's the twist. This wasn't minted in 1809, like the original log cabin Lincoln sent honoring his birth. This is a 2020 D penny, a modern coin. One that millions of Americans handled without knowing its true value. One man, sorting his spare change during lockdown, found it buried beneath some dusty coins in a mason jar. What he saw made his hands shake. The D mint mark? Gone. Missing entirely. And in its place, just smooth copper, as if it had vanished into thin air. At first, he thought it was worn down. But under magnification, it became clear. This penny had never received a mint mark at all. Which was impossible. The Denver Mint struck over 3 billion Lincoln cents in 2020, and every single one should have carried a D. So how did this one slip through? He brought the penny to a small-time coin dealer who almost laughed. "It's just a modern cent," he said. "Probably worth a few bucks." The man sent it to a top coin grading service, NGC, just to be sure. Weeks later, he got the call. Not only was it missing the mint mark, but it had a rare double die error, visible only under close inspection. Lincoln's eye was slightly doubled. The roof lines of the log cabin? Doubled too. But only a handful of people in the world knew to look for these signs. And even fewer had actually found one. Forums lit up with speculation. Was it a rogue batch? A new kind of error no one had caught yet? Theories swirled like wildfire. One major auction house listed the coin quietly, with no fanfare. Just a few lines of description. The bidding started at $1,000. Within hours, it hit $50,000. And by the end of the night, it had crossed the seven-figure mark, $1.4 million. For a penny, most people would have walked right past. And here's the kicker: experts believe there could be more of these floating around. Not dozens, not hundreds, but just a few, quietly hiding in jars, drawers, and old collections across the country. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. If you're lucky enough to spot one, here's what you must check. Second, look for the log cabin reverse design, honoring Lincoln's humble beginnings. Though it wasn't widely circulated in 2020, a few were mistakenly struck using the old reverse die, likely leftover from the 2009 Bicentennial designs. Third, check the obverse for the mint mark. If your penny has no D beneath the ear, and it's sharp with no signs of wear in that area, you could be holding a valuable anomaly. Fourth, examine the fine details under magnification. Look closely at Lincoln's eye. The doubling is subtle, but unmistakable to a trained eye. The roof shingles on the cabin may also show doubling, a clue pointing to a rare double die error. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on these coins. Auction houses have started whispering about upcoming specimens. And collectors are obsessively combing through every 2020 penny they owe WN.so. Here's the truth: you don't need to be a professional collector. You don't need expensive tools or years of training. All you need is curiosity, and a willingness to look a little closer at the coins you already have. This coin was never meant to be discovered. It slipped past the mint unnoticed. It traveled through hands, pockets, banks. It survived the chaos of a pandemic year. And it ended up in someone's change jar, quietly waiting to change a life.so. Grab your change jar. Open that old drawer. Pull out those pennies you've ignored for years. Because hidden among them could be a coin with no mint mark, and a value no one ever imagined. The year was 2014. Most people remember it for selfies and smartphones. But tucked inside that ordinary year was something extraordinary. A penny. 1 cent, barely worth a gumball. Unless you had this one. It looked like every other coin at first glance. Copper tone. Lincoln's face. But flip it over, and there it is. The image of a log cabin. The kind you might dismiss as a commemorative design. But what really made it valuable is what wasn't there. No mint mark. No indication of where it was made. And that tiny missing detail. It turned an ordinary penny into $1 million miracle. A retired truck driver in Ohio emptied a cup of loose change onto his kitchen table. He was just trying to roll coins for the bank. And then, he saw a 2014 penny, with the log cabin reverse, and no mint mark. He almost ignored it. Almost. But something didn't feel right. He took it to a local coin dealer. That dealer's face turned white. This wasn't just any 2014 penny. It was struck using a mismatched die, a rare mint error that created a coin never meant to exist. Some say it was a transitional design mix-up. Others whisper it was a test strike that accidentally made it into circulation. But one thing was certain: this was not supposed to happen, and that made it priceless. Collectors were stunned. Dealers began scouring their inventories. Auction houses received frantic calls. Have you seen this 2014 log cabin penny with no mint mark? And when it finally hit the bidding floor, hands flew into the air. Bids climbed by the thousands. And when the gavel finally dropped, it sold for $1.5 million. A forgotten reverse design. A missing mint mark. And one incredibly rare minting error that created one of the most sought-after modern coins in American history. experts believe more of these pennies might still be out there. In piggy banks, under couch cushions, sitting quietly in junk drawers, unnoticed. And that brings us to the secret most people miss. This isn't the 2009 Lincoln Bicentennial penny, which also shows a log cabin. No, this one's from 2014. That's what makes it so unusual. See, the US Mint was supposed to stop the log cabin reverse years earlier. But somehow, in one batch of 2014 no mint mark pennies, the old reverse was used again. How or why remains a mystery. Some say a rogue mint employee. Others think it was a leftover die accidentally reinstalled during a rushed production cycle. Whatever the cause, the result was a coin no one was supposed to find. But one man did. First, look for the date. 2014. Then flip the coin and look for the log cabin reverse. A small frontier-style house surrounded by the words United States of America and 1 cent. If it has that image, check the front again. There should be no mint mark below the date. Not a D. Not an S. Nothing. That's the first sign you might have something valuable. Most of these errors show subtle striking mistakes, off-center alignment, doubling on the letters, or ghost-like outlines around Lincoln's jacket. A jeweler's loupe or magnifying glass helps. You want to catch the tiniest flaw. But what makes this specific coin explode in value is a rare combination. No mint mark, wrong reverse, and a distinct die error in Lincoln's collar and jawline, like a blurry double printing effect. Most people miss that last part, but it's what turns an interesting penny into a life-changing treasure. One collector said. It's like finding a Picasso at a garage sale. You just know when you're holding something you shouldn't be holding. The US Mint has never officially acknowledged this coin. No press release. No correction. It's like they're pretending it doesn't exist, which makes collectors believe there could still be undiscovered pieces floating around in everyday change. Your next cup of coffee could come with a handful of coins, and one of them might be worth over $1 million. Look for the log cabin reverse. Look for the missing mint mark. Look closely for doubling, off-centering, or unusual shapes around Lincoln's face. And if you even suspect you found one, don't clean it, don't scratch it. And don't try to fix it. Put it in a soft coin holder and get it appraised by a trusted professional, preferably one who's seen rare errors before. Because every year, more of these impossible coins are found, and every year they change someone's life. It's one of the most mysterious pennies ever struck, the 1964 log cabin penny. And what makes it so valuable isn't just its age, it's a strange combination of history, human error, and pure luck that turned an ordinary coin into a $1.60 million miracle. At first glance, it looks like any other old Lincoln cent, brown, worn, faded by time. But underneath that dull copper surface hides a story that stunned even the most seasoned collectors. Because this isn't just a 1964 penny, it's a 1 in a billion error. A whisper from history, with a detail so rare, most people wouldn't spot it if they were holding it in their own hand. He'd been collecting spare change in an old coffee can for decades. Nothing special. Just pocket change. And one chilly autumn evening, while sorting through the coins by his fireplace, something caught his eye. A strange shadow behind Lincoln's portrait. A cabin? No, that couldn't be right, because what he'd found was no ordinary cent. It was a 1964 penny with traces of the log cabin reverse design, something that was never supposed to exist. Historians now believe this rare hybrid may have come from an experimental die used during transition testing between reverse designs. But here's the catch: the coin has no visible mint mark. Even though it was struck in Denver. And that anomaly? That tiny missing letter? Could be the reason it's worth over $1.6 million. Word spread fast. Coin forums lit up. Collectors across the country were pulling out their 1964 pennies, holding them under magnifiers, hoping to find the same phantom design. Auction houses started fielding calls. Some called it a fantasy, others, a one-time government slip-up that was never meant to leave the mint. In a high-security auction room in Chicago, under the eyes of a crowd filled with veteran dealers and hedge fund collectors, the log cabin penny went up for sale. One man's forgotten penny had become a once-in-a-lifetime payday. Dealers were stunned. The teacher was speechless. And the mint? Silent. Not a word. No official explanation has ever been released. At least two other rumored examples have surfaced since, both with similar traits. The date 1964, no visible mint mark, faint outlines of a cabin or irregular shadows behind Lincoln, an unusual wear on the reverse that experts say might indicate an unintentional overstrike or prototype clash. Collectors are tearing through jars, drawers, and dusty attic boxes, all looking for the same overlooked treasure, because this coin hides in plain sight. It's copper. It's common. It blends in. But if you know what to look for, you could be holding history in your palm. First, check the date. It must be 1964. That was the final year pennies were minted in high quantities before the composition was eventually changed to a zinc core in the 80s. But more importantly, yours must show no mint mark. The Denver Mint typically stamped a D below the date. If it's missing, it could signal a unique production flaw. Second, examine the reverse side. While most 1964 pennies have the Lincoln Memorial, rare error types, like this log cabin hybrid, may show faint architectural lines or traces of older die impressions behind the structure. Some even display ghostly outlines that resemble the original 1909 wheat design or an earlier experimental prototype. And finally, run your fingers along the rim. Is the edge misaligned? Off-centered? Uneven? These minor signs could hint at a misstrike, often associated with the most valuable minting errors. Most fakes are easy to spot under magnification. Many replicas show machine doubling, not true mint errors. The key is in the detail, weight, and coloration. A genuine 1964 D log cabin penny will weigh exactly 3.11 grams and contain 95% copper. Any major variation? Toss a dot. It's about the thrill of discovery. The hope of finding a piece of American history in the most unlikely place, your own change jar. And maybe, just maybe, that's where the next $1 million penny is hiding. So check your pockets. Dump out that drawer. Look again at those old jars sitting forgotten in the garage, because one tiny copper coin, no bigger than a thumbnail, could change your life forever. It was dull, brown, scratched. It looked like 100 other pennies from a lifetime of pocket change. But what no one noticed, until one sharp-eyed collector did, was that this ordinary-looking coin was hiding a $1 million secret. A single 1986 log cabin penny with no mint mark, just sold for $1.70 million. Well, hold on tight, because the story behind this coin will change the way you see every cent in your house. And if you're watching this video from the US, there's a very real chance this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now. Back in 1986, the US Mint was producing billions of Lincoln Memorial pennies, those familiar designs showing the grand columns of the memorial on the reverse. But buried deep within that year's production was a rare anomaly. A quiet, nearly forgotten test. Some insiders believe the Mint was experimenting with a retro tribute, bringing back the original 1909 Lincoln log cabin reverse design that marked the 100th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. For unknown reasons, this design never reached wide circulation. Only a tiny handful of these log cabin 1986 pennies were struck, and even fewer survived. You heard that right. No D for Denver. No S for San Francisco. Nothing. And that's exactly what makes it one of the most sought-after era coins in U.S. history. In 2023, a man from Ohio was sifting through an old cigar box filled with coins his grandfather left behind. Most were common. But one penny, dark, scratched, worn down, just felt different. But then he flipped it over and saw the rustic log cabin reverse. And when he checked the front, he noticed something shocking. He took it to a local dealer, who dismissed it as worthless. But something told him to keep looking. Eventually, he reached out to a coin expert in New York, and within days, that coin was in an auction house, drawing gasps from collectors around the world. Bidding started at $5,000. Within minutes, it passed $100,000. But it didn't stop there, because what most people don't realize is that this version of the 1986 log cabin penny doesn't officially exist, which means it could be a rogue error, a test piece that slipped through, or a deeply buried prototype never meant to be seen by the public. And those details? They're the stuff of treasure legends. One dealer called it the most important copper cent discovery of the decade. Another said, collectors are absolutely shocked. Everyone thought these were a myth. After news broke, collectors everywhere started combing through their change. Facebook groups lit up. Reddit threads exploded. One man from Arizona claimed he had 2 more just like it. A woman in Michigan swore she saw that exact cabin design on a coin her father used to carry in his wallet. But here's the kicker: even if you've seen a 1986 penny 100 times, chances are you weren't looking closely enough. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. First, flip your 1986 penny over. If it shows the Lincoln Memorial, it's common. But if it shows a rustic log cabin, with fine lines and wooden textures, you might be holding the rare reverse dot. If there's no mint mark, no D or S, you're looking at something very unusual. Because every official version of the 1986 penny came from either Denver or San Francisco. A missing mint mark suggests it may have been struck at the Philadelphia Mint by mistake, or intentionally, and slipped into circulation undetected. That combination, the log cabin reverse and the missing mint mark, is what makes this coin a $1 million phenomenon. Some counterfeits have started popping up online. Don't fall for the fakes. If the lines on the cabin look blurry, or the coin feels too shiny, it's probably a replica. The real deal has age, slight wear, and a coppery red hue that only comes from 1980 circulation. One man's pocket change became a $1 million miracle, and collectors across the country are rushing to get their hands on this exact coin. So, check your couch cushions, your junk drawer, that old coin jar in your kitchen. Because even if you've seen it 1,000 times, the 1986 no mint mark log cabin penny could be hiding in plain sight. Because this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. It looked like any other penny. Ordinary. Brown. Worn from time. A 1976 Lincoln cent. But hidden in its copper shell was a secret no one expected, not even the man who found it digging through a jar of spare change on a dusty shelf in his garage. He thought he was just passing time, reliving childhood memories, flipping coins between his fingers. Then he saw it. The date read 1976. The reverse? A beautiful log cabin design, something that shouldn't have existed. He flipped it again. Something was missing. The mint mark. Gone. No D. No S. Nothing. Just a phantom where a mint mark should have been. And in that moment, his heart skipped out. It was a ghost coin. A mistake. A mystery. A treasure. Because this coin, what collectors now call the 1970-60 log cabin penny with no mint mark, was never meant to be. When experts got their hands on it, jaws dropped. This was no illusion, no scratched-off mark. This was a genuine U.S. Mint error, one that had somehow slipped through the cracks at the Denver Mint. During America's Bicentennial year, when the nation celebrated 200 years of independence, this rogue penny was struck without its signature. Even stranger, the reverse showed the log cabin design, a throwback to Lincoln's birthplace. But that design didn't belong on a regular 1976 penny. Some speculate it may have been an experimental die, used during secret tests, or perhaps a mismatched hybrid, caused by a chaotic moment on the mint floor when 2 unrelated dies were mistakenly paired. What we do know is this: only a handful have ever been found, and one of them just sold at auction for $1.8 million, because of 3 simple reasons: rarity, mystery, and emotion. This isn't just a coin, it's a slice of American history gone rogue, a rebel in the world of numismatics. Dealers are rushing to find others. Collectors are scanning every 1976 penny they can find. And meanwhile, millions of Americans are tossing them aside, unaware they may be discarding $1 million miracle, Another coin, almost identical, was pulled from circulation in Ohio. A man found it lodged in the crack of his car's floor mat. He nearly vacuumed it up. But something caught his eye. The cabin on the back. It seemed off. Vintage. Like it belonged on a commemorative token, not a penny. 1970-60 Lincoln cent, no mint mark, misstrike error, log cabin reverse. Value estimated? $1.6 to $1.8 million, all from a penny that had lived in his car for over a decade. And this tiny detail is why it's worth millions. And most people miss it, it's easy to overlook. After all, the mint mark is tiny. Less than a few millimeters. But without it, everything changes. Combine that with a design that shouldn't be there, the cabin that whispers Lincoln's frontier childhood, and you've got a 1 in a billion anomaly. Collectors were shocked. The press barely covered it. But those in the know? They started watching every online auction like hawks. Watching. Waiting. Hoping. Because the last time a 1970-60 penny with this strange combination appeared, it vanished into a private collection for an undisclosed amount rumored to exceed $2 million. Could one of these be sitting in your pocket? Your dresser? Your old piggy bank from the 80s? If you're serious about coins, or just curious about the potential sitting in your spare change, listen closely. Second, turn the coin over. Look for the reverse design. If it shows the standard Lincoln Memorial, it's common. But if it shows a log cabin, that's your first clue. Third, and this is crucial, check below the date. That's where the mint mark lives. You could be holding one of the rarest and most valuable errors in U.S. coin history. But beware, some people try to fake this by scraping off the mint mark. Those won't fool a trained eye. Grading services like PCGS and NGC know exactly what to look for. The genuine error has a completely clean field, no trace of tampering, no leftover impression. Just pure, accidental perfection. The most valuable coins often look the most ordinary. These tiny treasures don't shine. They don't shout. They whisper. They wait. Hidden in coffee cans. Stuck between couch cushions. Buried in forgotten coin jars across America. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. So check your coins. Dig through that jar. Flip through that stack of old pennies. Because this exact penny, this 1970-60 Lincoln cent with no mint mark and a log cabin reverse, could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million.